When Steven Spielberg announced he was remaking West Side Story, many people asked the same question. Why? The original 1961 film had already won 10 Academy Awards and was considered one of the greatest musicals ever made. Its songs were legendary, its choreography groundbreaking, its cultural impact undeniable. How could anyone possibly touch it? But Spielberg didn't want to simply copy the original. He wanted to breathe new life into a classic, revisiting its themes of love, prejudice, and cultural conflict through a modern lens. He wanted to give it authenticity, depth, and a voice that resonated with the 21st century. And in 2021, after years of anticipation and a global pandemic delaying its release, his version finally hit theaters. But the story of West Side Story, 2021, is not just about music and dance. It's about controversy, casting debates, cultural representation, and even bans in certain countries. This wasn't just a movie, it was a cultural event. One that sparked conversations around race, identity, and the power of cinema to reimagine the past while speaking to the present. To bring the film to life, Spielberg assembled a cast that blended fresh talent with established stars. At the center was Rachel Zegler, making her film debut as Maria. Discovered through an open casting call that drew tens of thousands of applicants, Zegler brought a mixture of innocence and fire to the role. Her voice, pure, powerful, and deeply emotional, gave new dimension to songs like Tonight and I Feel Pretty. Opposite her was Ansel Elgort as Tony, the ex-Jet trying to escape his violent past. His casting sparked debate, but his chemistry with Zegler carried the tragic love story at the heart of the film. Then came Ariana DeBose as Anita. Her performance was nothing short of electric, fierce, passionate, heartbreaking. She lit up the screen in America and broke hearts in A Boy Like That, I Have a Love. DeBose's work earned her an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress, making history as the first Afro-Latina and openly queer woman of color to win in that category. The legendary Rita Moreno, who won an Oscar for playing Anita in the 1961 version, returned in a new role written just for her, Valentina, a shopkeeper who becomes a moral compass in the story. Moreno's presence bridged the past and the present, honoring the original while blessing the new version with authenticity. Spielberg also made a point to cast Latinx actors in Latinx roles, addressing one of the biggest criticisms of the original film, where white actors often played Puerto Rican characters with heavy makeup. Actors like David Alvarez as Bernardo and Mike Feist as Riff gave their gangs, the Sharks and the Jets, new dimension and humanity. The result was a cast that not only delivered stunning performances, but also represented a cultural shift toward authenticity and inclusion in Hollywood. In 1957, the Jets, a gang of youths, brawl with the Sharks, a gang of youths, for control of on Manhattan's. Sergeant Krupke and Lieutenant Schrank disband their latest scuffle, with Schrank deriding their conflict as pointless, since the neighborhood will soon be demolished to make way for Dot. The gangs are too proud to care, and Jet leader Riff proposes a rumble between the two gangs. He approaches his friend Tony, who is on parole, for help. Tony declines, wishing to reform himself with the help of Valentina, the Puerto Rican owner of Doc's General Store. Meanwhile, Maria, Shark leader Bernardo's sister, is betrothed to his friend Chino, but yearns for an independent future. At a neighborhood dance in the community center that night, Tony and Maria meet and fall in love, infuriating Bernardo. However, Bernardo accepts Riff's terms to participate in the proposed rumble, provided that Tony attends as well. Tony later confesses his love to Maria, and they vow to reconvene the next day. Bernardo and his girlfriend Anita argue about life in New York compared to Puerto Rico, with Anita's belief in the contrasting with Bernardo's rude pessimism. Police interrogate the Jets, who deny any knowledge about the rumble. During their date at the cloisters, Tony reveals to Maria that his year-long imprisonment for nearly beating a rival gang member to death had scared him into reforming. Maria makes Tony promise to stop the rumble, and they make promises to one another as if marrying before God. Later, Tony tries to convince Riff to call off the rumble by stealing his newly bought gun, but the Jets steal it back, with Riff reasserting that the rumble will happen as scheduled. Schrank orders Krupke and other police officers to stop the rumble from occurring, but they are unsuccessful. Arriving at the rumble, Tony speaks to Riff, who is so confident Tony has joined them, he relinquishes the gun. Tony then explains his feelings for Maria to Bernardo. But Bernardo uses his boxing skills to injure Tony as Tony refuses to fight. Bernardo then goes after Riff, so Tony fights, punching Bernardo on the ground but stopping before knocking him unconscious. Unwilling to let Tony walk away, Bernardo goes after him and produces a knife. After a brief duel, Bernardo fatally stabs Riff before Tony fatally stabs Bernardo. The gangs flee when the police arrive, and Chino walks away last with Riff's gun. Maria gushes about her love for Tony to her co-workers in the late-night cleaning crew at the department store. Once their shift is over, she spots Chino, who reveals that Tony killed Bernardo. She cannot believe it until Tony comes to her room later and admits it. She is furious with him, but begs him not to turn himself into the police, as it would mean losing him as well. They plan to run away together. Valentina laments Bernardo's and Riff's deaths while reflecting on her interracial relationship with her deceased white husband, Doc. After identifying Bernardo's body at the morgue, Anita returns home and sees Maria and Tony together as he leaves the apartment. Anita argues with Maria, but eventually accepts that she and Tony are in love. At the boxing gym, Chino plans to kill Tony with the gun, but the Sharks tell him you kill or they kill you. Schrank interrogates Maria at her apartment about Tony's whereabouts. Maria sends Anita to ask Valentina about the safety of a cousin as a way of passing on a warning for Tony in front of Schrank. However, at docks, Anita encounters the Jets, who insult and attempt to her even as their girls protest, until Valentina arrives and intervenes. Traumatized, Anita calls Valentina a traitor for housing the Jets, then claims that Chino killed Maria and vows to return to Puerto Rico. Valentina condemns the Jets, who shamefully disperse before relaying Anita's message to Tony, who runs into the streets, begging for Chino to kill him. Anybody tries to get him off the street but fails. As Maria arrives, to Tony's relief, Chino emerges and fatally shoots him. After Tony dies in her arms, a devastated Maria takes the gun and aims it at the gathered Jets and Sharks, berating them for the senseless deaths their conflict caused, before tearfully dropping the gun. As the police arrive to arrest Chino, the gangs finally end the feud by coming together to carry Tony's corpse into docks, with Maria following close behind. But despite Spielberg's careful approach, West Side Story 2021 didn't escape controversy or censorship. In much of the world, the film was celebrated. But in Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Qatar, Oman, and the United Arab Emirates, the movie was banned outright. The reason? A character named Anybody's, played by non-binary actor Iris Menace. The character's gender identity, treated with subtlety and respect in the film, clashed with censorship laws in countries where LGBTQ+ representation is restricted or outright prohibited. These governments didn't allow even a glimpse of that storyline to reach audiences. Instead of editing or censoring individual scenes, they chose the more drastic option, banning the film entirely. This wasn't the first time a Hollywood film faced such bans, but it highlighted a growing divide. In one part of the world, representation was celebrated as progress. In another, it was treated as unacceptable. For Spielberg, the ban was a reminder that cinema still has the power to challenge and threaten cultural boundaries. For audiences, it became part of the film's story, a musical about love and division that, ironically, was itself divided by global censorship. Though released in the shadow of a pandemic and banned in several countries, West Side Story, 2021, still carved out an important legacy. Critics praised Spielberg's craftsmanship, calling it a rare remake that not only justified its existence but, in some ways, surpassed the original. His use of long takes, practical sets, and naturalistic performances gave the film a rawness that contrasted beautifully with the elegance of the music. The choreography, reimagined by Justin Peck, paid tribute to Jerome Robbins' original while bringing a more grounded, street-level energy. Songs like Tonight and America weren't just performed, they exploded with life, filmed with sweeping camera work that made them feel bigger and more immediate than ever before. Culturally, the film sparked conversations about representation in Hollywood. For the first time, Puerto Rican characters in West Side Story were largely played by Puerto Rican and Latinx actors. Dialogue was often delivered in Spanish without subtitles, a bold choice by Spielberg to honor authenticity. Instead of catering to English-speaking audiences, he invited them into the world of the sharks without translation. Awards soon followed. The film received 7 Academy Award nominations, including Best Picture. Ariana DeBose's win became a historic milestone, celebrated worldwide. But perhaps the greatest legacy of West Side Story, 2021, is its reminder that cinema, like the story it tells, is timeless. The themes of forbidden love, cultural conflict, and systemic prejudice remain as relevant in 2021 as they were in 1961 or even in Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, the source that inspired it all. West Side Story, 2021, wasn't just a remake, it was a reinvention. A film that honored a classic while daring to confront its flaws. A film that sparked bans in some countries and applause in others. A film that reminded us why stories endure, because they reflect who we are and who we might become. In the end, Spielberg's version proved that love stories never die. They just find new voices, new rhythms, new battles to fight. And as long as there are walls dividing people by race, by class, by culture, West Side Story will remain a story worth telling.